What is going on, everybody? So today we're going to go to 3 different tanks that are struggling for 3 different reasons. Now the first tank, which we're at right now, we just picked this job up recently, and they were dealing with fish disease. He was losing a bunch of fish, expensive fish, coral recession, just your typical problems that you have in a saltwater aquarium. So to address the fish disease, we started dosing hydrogen peroxide directly to the tank because it was going to be too much of a headache to try to catch out every one of his fish in that tank. And the stress alone of trying to catch the fish out was just, could kill the fish. So we got him on hydrogen peroxide. We took care of as much aptasia as we possibly could in the tank, which was stinging the corals. And eventually we're going to treat the hydroids that he has in the tank, and there's some other pests in there that we've noticed. But the corals are looking better, and I'm going to go inside right now and I'm going to check on the fish to see how they're doing with their hydrogen peroxide treatment. Now, he did lose a bunch of fish. Since the last time I was here is when I started the hydrogen peroxide treatment, so it's been 1 week on the hydrogen peroxide treatment. We're gonna see how it's doing. I'm a little nervous. All right, so here we go. All right, so here we are at the customer's house, and I have to say, the corals are looking great. We're doing the hydrogen peroxide treatment in tank, and guess what? Monopora still looks good. Fish are way more active than they were. Soft coral all look good. LPS look good. We got blastos. I mean, they're swollen, they're big. Now this little coral right here fell into the sand, so it's a little beat up, but I just glued it back up, and so hopefully that will recover. But look, all the Euphilia, all looking good. Star polyp, all looking good. Again, fish are out and active. Anthias, which are very fragile fish, recovering just fine. But I know everybody wonders, how does this hydrogen peroxide work with corals? And I have to say, some of these corals were struggling before for unrelated reasons. None of them are doing worse because of the hydrogen peroxide treatment that I've noticed. All these LPS corals, like look at this giant thing. Look at this, polyps are out and everything. So, and then we got another coral right here crusting on the rock. So, most importantly, the fish are doing great. The yellow tank, who is missing an eye, his left eye, is doing great. Color, it looks great on him. Self and Tang, and him still kind of going at it here and there, but they're getting along well enough. It seems like that, nobody's hurting anybody too much. We'll have to keep an eye on that though. But all the fish in here are alive, and that's the most important thing. I don't think if we didn't act, I think all these fish would be dead. And so the hydrogen peroxide treatment, I definitely think, is working, and its effect on the coral seemed to be fine. Now the rockflower anemone was looking good too. I just bumped it, so I'm happy with the way things are right now. Now we're just into week 3 of this, so we got a long way to go. It's a 90-day treatment, but just wanted to give it a bit of an update on how things are looking, and so far so good. Like I said, most importantly, we have not lost any fish, and the corals still look really, really good. That Hollywood stunner growing right there on the rock. So it's working. All right, so here we are at the next customer's house, and he is having trouble keeping corals, and he's not quite sure why. Now we just turned the lights on, and the corals look a bit like they're receding. They don't look great. I know he's lost a bunch of Euphilia style corals, a bunch of LPS he's lost, and he cannot keep SPS corals in this tank. So things like Monopora and Aquapora and stuff, he just cannot keep in this tank. Kind of stirring up the sand to kind of take a look at his sand bed, see how dirty it is, because I did a water test and the nitrates are 20. So the nitrates are pretty high. We're gonna do a good 50% water change on this tank. That Hollywood stunner coral is receding, it's bleaching out. Now you can see that little flame angelfish. That's definitely suspect to me. I know a lot of customers say that they swear their coral beauty or their flame angel doesn't pick on coral, but 100% they definitely pick on coral. Every tank I've had them in, they've picked on the coral. And there's a Monopora frag that seems to be dead. And all in all, it's pretty much just a graveyard of corals in this tank. Now there's great coralline algae in here, I'm noticing. Great coralline algae growth. The tank seems to be mature enough. It's over a year old. Now I noticed that the soft corals are doing good in this tank. The zoas are doing good, the cabbage corals, things like that, pulsing xenia, star polyps. Nothing's taking off. The gorgonian there is looking good. But good coralline algae growth, I did a water test. Everything checks out. We're looking at 440 calcium. We're looking at alkalinity around 8.4, a nice solid pH level in this aquarium. Nitrates are high, phosphates are like 0.04, but we're gonna do a big water change to get those nitrates down. So what I've learned from doing a bunch of aquariums and facing multiple different issues and problems is if your water checks out and you know you got good clean water and you got things like coralline algae growing, your fish are healthy, and some of the corals in the tank are doing good, like for instance the soft corals in this tank are doing really well, but certain corals aren't. To me, at the top of the list, I think automatically of pest, coral pest. Now, most of these corals are from outside vendors, so either online sellers or local fish stores. There's not hardly any corals in here from Tanknicians, and we quarantine all our own corals, so I can't vouch for other people's corals and what they're bringing in the tank. I just know that we have identified pests in this tank, and that's something that we're going to have to deal with in the future in order to be able to keep the corals that the customer wants. Now for today, I'm going to go ahead and dose the tank with this beneficial bacteria to continue to make the tank healthy and basically keep it well established. So my main focus with this aquarium is to get the water chemistry perfect, and right now it is. And we're seeing that with the soft corals looking really, really good. We're seeing a lot of coralline algae growth. We're seeing a more well-established stand bed. And with the addition of that bacteria, I think we're going to really turbo start that aquarium. Where my worries lie are these corals came from a third party. They came from a big online seller and then a local fish store around here that I personally know has hydroids and has other LPS eating flatworms and things like that. So I won't feel confident in giving him the okay, or so I'm not really confident in any like new corals going into this tank until we address the issues of the hydroids and the flatworms and anything else that could be in that aquarium that could be damaging these corals. It's not worth putting money into the tank unless we solve these issues. So we're going to finish up today doing a really big water change, 50%. One thing I did notice, not only is the flame angelfish a issue in this tank, but there is a fox face in this tank as well, and fox faces are known to be little nippers on LPS corals. So with the customer's permission, I spoke with him, and I think the course of action would be to treat the hydroids, get rid of them in the aquarium, do our best to treat the aptasia, and then start with small little frags to put in the tank and see how they do. But right now, I think we should just take a break from all corals that are going in that tank and just treat the pests in the tank, give it a little bit to kind of gain its balance, and then start adding little small frags little by little until we can get this tank up and running and at its full potential again. All right, so here is the aquarium, and it was a rough going at first. This tank had fish disease, fish parasites. It had some issues with the coral. He did a real big change. He upgraded this tank to this one that you see right now, and everything just kind of went to hell, and it just got really, really bad. But we, through water changes and getting the water chemistry right, are starting to see some life come back to this tank. You can see the monopora growing, gynepora looking good, mushrooms all over the gravel, toadstools there, but the monopora, this whole thing was dead, and it's starting to come back. You're starting to see life back into this. You can see where it's shelved, the areas that right there that are dark, that was all died off, but now it's coming back, which is really cool. Again, another piece of coral right here that was dying that is starting to come back. Now, what we're dealing with here currently is some green hair algae issues, which is not a big deal. I'm not too worried about that. I'm just going to scrub it out today and catch it out with a fish net. Anemones are looking good. Now, I think we're not going to be able to have these guys survive. I think they're kind of a lost cause, but you never know. It could come back. Zoas are growing like crazy. Fish are healthy. This coral right here is looking good. Hammers. This coral's coming back too. We're actually seeing a lot of life. And anytime you see SPS start growing back and starting to grow, that's a good sign that your tank is healthy. So I feel really good about this. Even this coral right here, it's really, really dark. I don't even know what kind of coral that is. It could be monopora too. But you can see the green polyps on it. It is starting to grow back also. And that was dead to rights pretty much, but we're starting to get polyp extension. We're starting to see some color on that coral, so who knows what's gonna happen there. Such a nice collection of fish. Powder blue tang, blue hippo tang, flamingo tang, some really pretty fish, purple tang. There's a really nice collection of fish in this aquarium. Now, the main reason why I think this tank here was doing so poorly was because he had recently upgraded from his one tank to another tank, and in that shift the nutrients just kind of bottomed out. Everything just kind of bottomed out. He lost a lot of beneficial bacteria, a lot of his little critters in it that was keeping the tank stable. It was basically like starting completely over, and that caused a domino effect that his corals, being in a well-established aquarium to one that wasn't, just kind of just started dying off. Not only that, you gotta be very careful where you get your corals from. There's a lot of parasites and pests that come along with them, so you gotta make sure you're vigilant when you look at your corals. But the way things are going now, I'm really happy. I think we're headed in the right direction. It is really hot out here. Oof. I'm happy because I think we're headed in the right direction. Like you see, there's growth coming back to the tank. It's no longer looks like a rock desert. There's life back into the tank. The fish are healthy, and we're just gonna keep doing our part. Checking the levels, getting those nitrates up. They were bottomed out. The nutrient levels bottomed out. So getting those nitrates up, and just basically doing our water changes and staying on top of the chemistry. We raise the pH also in this tank. So, I have a really good feeling about the future of this tank. So we'll just gotta, come once every 2 weeks and just keep doing the same thing, and hopefully we see some progression. And eventually I want to get him some new corals in there. I think the tank is ready for it. I think it's proven it's ready for it. So we'll get him a couple of cool corals, some acans, some blastos, some LPS. The SPS are doing good in there too, so maybe some different variations of monopora and stuff like that I think would be fun.